You notice the silence first, not the absence of chatter, not even the absence of footsteps. Something deeper, as if even the sea has forgotten how to breathe. The ship rocks gently beneath you, too gently. The ropes barely creak. The sails, once full, bellied with wind, now hang like wet linen after a funeral. Tired, sagging, done, you're standing mid-deck, hands curled around the splintered rail, staring into nothing, not because there's nothing to see, but because you don't want to look down. Not yet. The air is thick with salt and stillness, and something else, something dry, dust, bone dust. Your nose knows before you do. A scratch in your throat, a grain against your tongue. This isn't the air of a vessel still living. This is the air of a ship that's already passed on. What if history erased you? Not violently, not in blood, but gently, like this. Soft bones under empty boots. One hand still curled around the edge of a hatch. Forgotten not because you screamed too little, but because no one heard at all. There's a logbook below. You know that. You know, too, that it's open to the middle. The last entry was made 3 weeks ago. It didn't mention death. No one ever does. Tell us where you're listening from, or what time your nights begin. The ocean hums low beneath you, and now you look below the rail in the scuppers and shadows. The first shape catches your eye. Not movement, stillness, a boot, upright, worn at the heel, and in it bone, pale as old rope. The crew is still aboard. They just don't need the wind anymore. You breathe out through your teeth, the way your father used to when he smelled mold in the oats. It's a useless sound, doesn't clear anything, doesn't help anyone, but it buys time. 1 second more to believe this is a mistake. 1 blink longer to hope this ship is sleeping, but you already know it's not. Victorian ships were not designed to float ghost-like for weeks. Not without intervention. Not without someone at the helm. And yet here she is, the Cimbria, formerly of Glasgow, bound for Charleston. And now she's a cradle of dust. The captain's cabin is ajar. You remember touching the brass knob with a gloved hand. It wobbled, loosened from inside. You could have tightened it. You didn't. Inside, the maps are still pinned. The logbook's last entry reads, calm seas, rations tight. Mr. Willoughby feverish, spirits low. No panic, no farewell, no hint, as if the end was too slow to notice. You can't smell death anymore, not because it's gone, but because it's dried into the wood. Salt preserved everything, and everyone. The men died quiet. The crew's hammocks sag under invisible weight. One has a hole, and inside that hole a rib pokes through like driftwood. You tell yourself it's just rope. The galley is worse. Plates still set out, a spoon half, lifted from its bowl as if paused mid. Slurp, the bread is a fossil, a ship of ghosts that never bothered to haunt. You sit, you need to. Not because your legs are tired, though they are, but because something about this quiet demands reverence. You've never been to church, but this must be what pews feel like. Wood, silence, unanswered questions. The men didn't jump. That's the strangest part. No one ran for the longboat. No panic in the rigging. No blood on the decks. Just stillness. You pluck a rag from a hook by the stove and wipe your brow. It doesn't help. The sweat is old, stale, fear. Sweat, the kind that lingers even after you've calmed down. If you ever calm down. And yet a part of you is calm, because you've seen worse. Not stranger. Just worse. You were 12 when they found the barge with its cargo of corsets and no crew. 15 when the prison hulk drifted into port with 3 skeletons still chained upright. You remember your mother saying, "Not all deaths are loud." She had a way of saying things too late to matter. The sun is setting now, not fast, just enough to warm the brass portholes, just enough to make the dust in the air sparkle like stories. You light the lantern in the captain's quarters. The flame flutters, hesitates, then stands straight. And it's here, under this weak flicker of light, that you see it. A name, scratched faintly into the underside of the bunk. Forgive us. You lean in, touch the groove with one fingertip. The wood is soft, damp with years, but the words are real. They didn't just vanish. They tried to be remembered. Below the bunk, in a small crate, is a bottle, uncorked, empty. The label's smeared, but you can still read 2 words. Laudanum compound. Enough to kill a headache. Enough to kill a crew. You sit back again. Let your spine find the ridges of the wall. There's something beautiful about old ships, even the haunted ones, especially the haunted ones. They carry silence like inheritance. Not the kind you spend, the kind that settles in the bones. You're not here to solve this, not tonight. Tonight, you're just a body in the dark, trying to remember a crew that couldn't leave a story behind, trying to listen where no voices remain. The wind picks up a little. It smells like brine, and varnish, and something dry, like paper in a forgotten drawer. You tilt your head, close your eyes, and you wait for the next part to begin. But that wasn't even the worst part. The night doesn't fall, it sinks, slow and deliberate, like cargo being lowered into the sea. No stars come out to meet you, just a smear of violet in the sky and the thick hush of waiting wood. You slept. Or you didn't. You lay curled in the captain's cot, a little too long for it, boots still on. One arm flung over your eyes to block out the lamplight. It's out now, but your eyes still see it, the ghost glow of a night, too quiet to trust. Your back aches, the cot was built for someone shorter, or maybe just less burdened. You turn onto your side, the blanket is scratchy, smells like beeswax and old tobacco. You wonder if the captain ever slept well in it. He probably didn't. By morning, the ship has shifted. You feel it in your teeth, the rhythm has changed. The hull creaks with a groan you didn't hear yesterday. The ropes above twitch, and for a second, you swear something moved in the corner of your eye. But when you look, nothing, just the thick air and the shivering light of day trying to seep through the grime. Caked porthole, you rise, your knees click, your throat tastes like iron, you swallow it back down and step into the corridor. The galley is still set for breakfast. No rats, no rot, just dust. You brush your sleeve against the table as you pass, and the trail you leave feels like vandalism. They ate here, they laughed maybe. Or coughed, or said nothing at all. You pause beside the kettle, lift the lid, empty. You don't know what you expected still. Warm tea. Your eyes drift to the stove. Cold. One flake of ash sits at the edge of the burner, perfectly untouched, like it's holding its breath. You find the ship's log again. This time, you bring it to the light and flip back. Page after page of steady, polite handwriting. Temperature, wind, rations, crew behavior. Nothing alarming. Nothing true. Because you know now that at least 3 men had already died before that last entry was written. Their bones told you, so, who wrote the lie, and why. One page has a small drop on it, reddish, brown. You pretend it's tea. The names come up over and over. Mr. Willoughby unwell, but smiling first mate Dorrance strict. Faithful cook Griffin worried about meat, spoiling. You whisper the names out loud. Not to summon them, just to make sure someone says them. Willoughby, Dorrance, Griffin, gone. The sky outside is dull pewter. You step onto the main deck and feel the wind brush your cheek like a stranger's apology. There's something tied to the mast, a rope, looped awkwardly, trailing to the deck like a question. You follow it. It leads to a box, nailed shut. The boards are warped. You crouch. Place one hand on the top. It's not heavy, not anymore. You fetch a rusted pry bar from the captain's tool chest. The handle is worn smooth, used often, but not recently. You wedge it under the edge. The wood groans, splinters. The lid lifts inside, sawdust and tucked within it. A violin, cracked, strings gone, but you recognize the shape, the care it took to protect it. Someone thought this would be worth saving. You sit beside the box, legs folded beneath you. There's a small carving on the side of the instrument. Play for the silence. You feel something in your throat tighten. Why bring a violin aboard a cargo ship? Why bury it in sawdust? Because some silences are too big. The crew left no letters, but this was one. You set the violin back down, gently, like a prayer. Below deck, the air has grown stale. The crew's quarters still hold their impressions. The hammocks sag with invisible weight. One man had a locket nailed above his bunk. You open it. Inside, a sketch, not good, not bad, just human, a face, a child, a wife. You imagine him staring at it during the last days or the last hours. The candle you lit down here gutters once, then stands tall. It doesn't flicker anymore. The ship isn't rocking like it used to. You lean against the bulkhead. Let it hold you. Something strange catches your eye. The floorboards, just behind the stairwell, you crouch. One plank looks newer than the others. You tap it. Hollow. You tap the ones beside it. Solid. You pry it up. Expecting what? Gold? Bones? But it's a pouch. Canvas, drawstring, stiff with age. Inside, coins, not many, just enough to matter, but wrapped around them a letter, folded tight, torn along the crease. You unfold it. Try to read. The ink is smudged. Only one phrase is still clear. We did what we had to. You sit there for a long time, letter in your lap, trying to feel something beyond confusion. Anger, grief, relief. Nothing comes. Only the sound of the sea nudging the hull, like it's trying to wake something that refuses to rise. You return to the captain's quarters, sit in his chair, look out the rear window. There's no land behind you, just pale sky and green, gray water. You wonder how many other ships passed by and didn't stop. How many looked at the Cimbria and said, she's just drifting. She was, but not empty, not forgotten, not yet. You fold the letter again, tuck it into your pocket. You don't know whose it was, but someone meant for it to be found. The violin, the locket, the rope on the mast. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't mutiny. It was something slower. A rot you couldn't taste until it was too deep in your throat. The kind of death that looks like waiting. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to pause. The wind picks up again. Your coat flutters, and the silence shifts, but that wasn't even the strangest thing hidden on this ship. It starts with a knock, not loud, not frantic, just a single, dull thud from somewhere deep in the hull. One tap, then nothing. You wait for a second, then two, then five. Maybe it was the ship settling. Wood sighing, that's what old ships do, isn't it? They breathe in creaks. They murmur in groans. You stand anyway, because something about that sound didn't feel random. It had rhythm, intention. The kind of noise made by someone who doesn't want to wake the dead. Just remind them they're not alone. You descend again, boots echoing faintly, down the narrow stair, past the hammocks and the empty hooks. Past the faint outline of a handprint you didn't notice before smudged along the wall like someone tried to hold themselves steady and failed. The hold is darker today, colder. You don't know if it's the weather, or if the ship is finally ready to tell you something. You bring the candle, you bring the pry bar too. The knock doesn't come again, but you remember where you heard it. Starboard wall, just behind the supply crates. You move them, slowly. The air back here smells like wax and salt rot. One box crumbles at the corner when you nudge it. Dry biscuit crumbs pour out, mouse. Nibbled and gray, and behind that, a seam. Not a door, not a hatch, just a patch of wall that looks newer than the rest. Your fingers find a groove. You press, it gives. The board swings back with a groan like a cough that's waited too long. A crawl space. No wider than your shoulders, no taller than a crouch. Inside, it smells like rust and human fear. You hesitate, of course you do. Then you kneel and you crawl. The air grows thinner by the foot. Your candle flickers in protest. And then there, a tiny chamber, no larger than a cupboard. Inside, three things: a ledger, a child's shoe, and a pile of nails. You don't know what hits harder, the shoe, curled and soft at the toe, or the nails, rusted and bent, lying in a pool of dried ink. You reach for the ledger. It's brittle, but it opens. The pages aren't numbered, and the writing isn't neat. Scrawled lines, as if someone wrote with a shaking hand and no light. Names again, but different ones. J. McGann refused. Eliza M. cried all night. Putrid meat. No more tea. A diary, not the captain's, not the crew's either. These are notes from below, from someone hiding. Or someone locked away. Your thumb finds a phrase that stops you. Promised safe passage. Then the locks. You blink, then read it again. You've heard of it. The practice wasn't new, even in the 19th century. Human cargo, promises broken. Men and women tucked between crates, not slaves exactly, not immigrants, not criminals, just inconvenient passengers too poor to be seen, so they were hidden, and sometimes. Left, you sit back on your heels, try to swallow, the child's shoe, the nails, the ledger. This wasn't a ship of ghosts. It was a ship of secrets, and some of them never reached land. You crawl backward. Pull the panel shut behind you. Try not to breathe too loudly. Back in the hold, the wind has changed, not stronger, just different. It whistles through the cracks like it's trying to sing, but forgot the tune. You return to the deck. The sun is flat in the sky, like someone tried to sketch it with a dull pencil. You look out over the railing. Nothing. No land. No ship. No bird. Just the horizon, smug and silent. Back in the captain's quarters, you sit again. The violin is still in its box. The coin still in your pocket. You pull the ledger onto the table, place it beside the official logbook, and you see it clearly now. 2 ships. One visible, one buried beneath. Above, a Scottish crew, rationed biscuits, fevered mates. Below, unnamed passengers, rusted nails, betrayal sealed behind wood. The violin wasn't for entertainment. It was a lullaby. A mercy. You flip the logbook to the last page again. There's something you missed before. A strange, simple phrase scrawled in the margin. Deck cleared. Below, we forget. You run your thumb across it. The ink smears. The captain knew, or at least suspected. You wonder who else did, and if they deserve to become dust in their boots. Outside, the wind still sings, but now you hear it differently. There's a pattern in it, almost like breath, almost like a name. You exhale slowly. The cot groans behind you, but you don't turn, because now you understand something very simple. This ship wasn't lost. It was hidden and no one wanted it found, but that wasn't even the first time this crew disappeared. There is something wrong with the stairs. You don't notice at first. Not when your boots touch the first step. Not even halfway down. But by the time you reach the bottom, you feel it. The space beneath your feet feels deeper than it should. Like the ship has grown, or perhaps emptied. You pause, one hand on the rail, one boot still on the last stair, and you listen. The silence isn't silent anymore. It watches. The hold is dim, though your candle still flickers faithfully. You light another, because down here, 2 flames feel better than one. There's something else, a smell, faint like citrus, but wrong. Like oranges that dried into themselves years ago, now rotting inward, sweet and sick at once. You follow it, past the cargo slings and shattered crates, past the violin box, the locket, the child's shoe. You count your breaths, 4 in, 4 out. Don't forget, you're still here. You find a hatch you hadn't noticed before, small, square, near the stern. There's a smear near the handle. You touch it, it flakes. Rust or blood, you don't ask which. You lift the hatch. A ladder descends into a shallow maintenance crawl, and inside, tucked like a secret between the ribs of the ship, a body, or what's left of one. Tucked in a fetal curl, back to the wall, a small pouch still tied at the waist. You freeze. There's no smell, not anymore. Whoever this was has been dead a long, long time, but it's the boots that strike you. Worn leather, heel worn flat, and on the heel carved initials. W.D. You know that name. You saw it in the logbook. First Mate Dorrance Strict, faithful. So why was he here? Why not with the others? Why hide? You crouch beside the curled figure, touch the pouch. Inside, a compass, a scrap of linen, a small sharp knife, and a folded paper, still intact. You unfold it. The handwriting is hurried. Slanted hard to the right. They made me choose. I didn't. I refused. I told them this would be murder. I told them starvation's no excuse. Then, I hear them now above me, moving like nothing's wrong. God forgive them. They forget already. You read it twice. Then a third time, and you sit back, slowly. Mr. Dorrance didn't vanish. He walked away. He chose silence rather than obey. You fold the note again. Place it in your pocket beside the coins, the other letter, the locket chain you didn't mean to keep. Your coat is growing heavy. Your chest, too, back on deck. The sunlight is high and cold. No warmth to it. The kind of light that doesn't bless, just exposes. You cross the planks to the quarterdeck and lean on the rail. The ship rocks gently now, just enough to lull, just enough to make your knees sway in time. You watch the sea. It says nothing, and still there's the sound, a faint tapping, again, not from below this time. From inside the captain's quarters, you walk slowly. The door is ajar as you left it, but the lamp is lit. You didn't light it, you're sure. It glows faint gold, flickering low, the kind of flicker that happens when breath passes near. But no one is here, or they've left, or never left. You don't believe in ghosts, but you believe in guilt, and sometimes guilt lingers longer than breath. You sit. The captain's log is still open, but there's something new beneath it. A photograph, small, brown, edged. You lift it carefully. 3 men, 1 child, all blurred from motion. Someone must have sneezed mid-exposure. Still, you recognize the posture of the tallest man. Straight spine, thick forearms, chin slightly tucked. That was Mr. Dorrance and the child. She's holding a violin. Your chest tightens again. You didn't know he had a daughter, or maybe he didn't. Maybe she was just the ship's child. Some vessels had them stowaways that became mascots, ghosts that became stories. Either way, she vanished. The crew log mentions no child, no women either, just names. Men, 20, 2 of them, and yet someone carved play for the silence on the violin box. Someone carried a child's shoe, and someone, maybe Dorrance, wrote "I refused." You stare at the photograph a little longer, then flip it. A single word scrawled on the back in pencil, barely legible. Drifted. You don't know if it's a location or a fate. You return the photo to the table, and you sit very still, because now the picture's changed. This wasn't just a forgotten voyage. It was a quiet disagreement, then a cover-up, then a disappearance, and the ship, she was the grave. You breathe, long, slow, Then you speak aloud, though there's no one to hear you. Drifted, it tastes strange in your mouth. The ship tilts, just slightly, a lurch, then calm again. You reach for the compass in Dorance's pouch, set it on the table, and it spins, not wildly, but unsettled. Like it doesn't want to choose, you watch it, for minutes, maybe more, until the needle calms, points southeast, toward something or nothing. You fold your hands, let the wood beneath your fingers tell you its history. The ridges, the salt-worn grain, the nail scars. Some nails were pulled. You can tell by the divots. Others, hammered in and left, permanent. The silence between them hums like a lullaby. You're no closer to an answer. But now you understand the shape of the questions. Why was Mr. Dorrance hiding? What did he refuse? Who else knew? And who was the girl in the photograph? You close your eyes. Let the wind brush your neck like an old hand. The Cimbria drifts, still, slow, uninterested in rescue, and below, a violin waits, but that wasn't even the final secret the captain tried to bury. The morning air has changed. Not in temperature, it's still damp and chilled and salt. Drenched, but in density. You feel it before you breathe it. Heavier, like something unsaid is now hanging just above your shoulder. You wake slowly in the captain's cot, boots still on, arms folded across your chest like a question. The photograph lies on the floor, face down. You don't remember dropping it. The compass is still on the desk. But the needle is still now, perfectly still, pointing southeast. You wonder if it means anything, or if it's just pretending to. You rise. The ship creaks under your weight more than usual. A groan beneath the boards, low and tired. Like the Cimbria herself is warning you, you're getting too close. You press your palms to the cabin wall, feel the cold through your gloves. The grain of the wood feels warped, soft in places, like breath passed through it once, long ago, and left it too tired to harden again. You descend to the hold, to the buried things, back past the hatch where you found Mr. Dorrance, past the violin and its silence. You're not going to the crawl space this time. You're going somewhere deeper. The captain's personal store. You hadn't dared before. Some part of you respected the boundaries, but the man's been dust for weeks now, and you're the only living soul left to trespass. The door is locked. Of course it is. But the pry bar works. It always does. You slide it gently, twist, the lock creaks, resists, then gives with a sound that feels too loud in a ship this silent. Inside, it's darker than the rest of the hold. Like light forgot how to enter this place. The smell hits first. Not death, not rot, but lavender and camphor, and something sharp ink, maybe old, metallic. There's a ledger, but it's not the ship's log. It's personal, unlabeled, bound in red cloth, fraying at the corners. You open it slowly. The pages crackle. and the first thing you see isn't a word. It's a sketch, a child's face, crude but careful. You flip the page and there a list, not names, amounts, dates, destinations, bribes, no something else. You flip again, and finally, April 2nd. She wouldn't stop crying. I warned her. I warned the mother too. They both refused food the last 3 days. Another page. April 3rd, Dorrance found me, said he'd report it. He won't, he's too frightened. He still believes in law. Your breath catches, so the girl was real, and the mother too, and the silence was deliberate. This wasn't misfortune. It wasn't bad luck. It was a choice. You shut the ledger too fast. Dust billows. You cough. The sound echoes, louder than it should. And behind you a scrape. You turn. Nothing. Just the candle flickering, and your own breath, shallow and clumsy in the cold. You kneel beside the crates in the back of the storeroom. One is nailed shut, but not carefully, not like cargo, like something meant not to be opened. But hastily, you don't want to know what's inside, but you lift the pry bar again. Wood groans, the nails resist, then yield. Inside, cloth, thick, navy blue, wrapped around something long and narrow. You pull it free, a jacket, and inside it, a name tag sewn into the lining, Eliza M. You sit back on your heels, your knees ache, your fingers sting. She wasn't crew. She was stowaway or passenger. Or just someone in the wrong place, too poor to be seen. You fold the coat back into the crate, not out of reverence, just because you don't know what else to do. Then you return to the captain's ledger. Flip to the final page. It's blank, except for one word, scrawled large across the center. Gone. No date, no signature, just that. You don't know if he meant them, or himself, or the ship, but something in you knows the truth. The Cimbria was not just lost. She was abandoned, in every sense. Not at sea, but long before that. When choices were made. When a girl cried too loudly. When a first mate said no, and vanished below. You close the red ledger. You carry it to the captain's desk. You place it beside the violin and the photo, a quiet collection of sins. No ghosts here, only records, only silence, and what you choose to do with it. You sit in the chair again. Your back rests heavier now. You are not the investigator. You are not the rescuer. You are only the witness, and even that is enough to ache. You glance once more at the compass, still southeast, still insisting. You don't know if it's pointing to salvation, or simply reminding you that movement is still possible. Outside, the wind moans softly in the rigging, and below deck something shifts, or perhaps you do, but that wasn't even the last lie the sea helped him bury. The door isn't locked, not anymore. You stare at the twisted iron latch, snapped neatly at the base, as though melted by candlelight. The lock's metal teeth curl inward like it died mid-scream. This was the captain's private quarters. And no one was meant to enter, not ever, but the silence invites you. No footsteps behind you, just the whisper of moths disintegrating somewhere in the dark. You press a hand to the wooden door, and it swings open with a sigh. Something smells like old roses, and something else, salt, wax, and regret. The captain's room does not match the rest of the ship. It's smaller than you'd imagined, quieter, cramped like a forgotten prayer box. The walls are paneled in a dark, sticky wood lacquered too many times and glint with tiny teeth marks from bored, gnawing rodents. But it's not the walls you're looking at. It's the paintings, 4 of them, arranged in a grid across the far wall. Not nautical maps, not ships, not gods or devils or the Queen's face, no. These are portraits, hand-painted, delicate, with brushstrokes as soft as sorrow. A woman in a red shawl, a boy holding a tin bird. A young man in a sailor's coat, and a girl, holding nothing. Their eyes follow you, even the scratch, taut ones. You run your fingers along the edge of a cracked desk. The varnish sticks to your skin. On the desk, a logbook, a quill, and a dried poppy petal pressed between 2 coins, one British, one not. You pick them up. The British coin is as expected. Queen Victoria's face, 1869. The other, smooth. Blank, no markings, no country, just a polished circle of weightless metal, cold as a ghost's tooth. What kind of currency has no nation? You tuck it into your sleeve. In the drawer you find it, the captain's journal. Bound in green leather, the edges singed. You turn to the first page expecting a date, a location, a signature. Instead, this. When I was 9, I drowned for the first time. That time I came back. You stop. The ship sways, and for just a moment, you feel as if your lungs don't belong to you, as if they're remembering a kind of breath that isn't yours. You keep reading. Most of the journal is torn, whole pages sliced out carefully, like surgical removals. But the pieces that remain are strange, not logs, not orders, stories. The bones sing when no one is looking. You must not hum back. She walks behind the cargo crates. I told them not to bring her aboard. He opened the wrong hatch. We gave him a quiet death. One entry is dated with no year. Saw him again, the boy with no shadow. Told him he could not stay in the hold. He grinned. I think he knew. Another, written sideways in the margin. The crew believes they've been hired to sail. They have not. They've been chosen to disappear. You put the book down and you notice something new. A second door, hidden behind a hanging coat. Narrow, iron, bolted shut not from inside, but from this very room. Someone didn't want what was in there to ever come out. You press your ear to it. No sound, no breath, but warmth. There's warmth behind it, on a dead ship in Arctic waters. Your mind swirls back to the skeletons. You saw them, not all at once, scattered like punctuation. One near the cook's quarters, one in a chair, 2 curled up behind sealed crates, all calm. No sign of violence, and all missing something, not just their flesh, their story. No letters, no uniforms. No names, no one aboard this ship had a past. Not one. You sit on the captain's cot. It creaks like a confession. You think about silence, the kind that comes before decisions, or after shame, or during prayer. This ship was built for silence, the way churches are built for echoes. But that silence is breaking now, and you're not sure who's breaking it. You or the door behind the coat, because now you hear it. A knock, once, soft, from inside that sealed room. You don't move, you barely breathe. Your heartbeat climbs into your throat, folds itself into a question and waits. Was it memory, echo, a gust of wind? Or someone's still in there. You touch the door. It's warmer now, like skin, like breath on your palm. But you don't open it, not tonight. You step backward. You whisper something you don't understand to the portraits. And you leave the captain's quarters. You don't close the door behind you. Back on deck, the sky is ink. The stars blink like dying candles, and far below, in the hold, something scratches once not violently. Just playfully, like a child waiting for you to come find them. There's something about silence that scratches. It doesn't just sit still. It shifts, like fabric moving over bone, like breath caught in a mouth that never exhales. That's what you notice first, standing before the captain's quarters. The door is shut, not merely closed. Shut with purpose, like a sealed confession. You hold the brass handle, cold. This door hasn't been opened in weeks. The salt has crept in, chewing at the hinges. Paint flakes fall like old dandruff. You press. The hinges groan. You hear it again, that breath, not yours, not the wind's, not the ship's. A soft, ticking exhale that puffs behind your shoulder and stops the blood in your spine. You turn, nothing, just the same corridor. The same crates, the same salt, laced dark. But the breath lingers in your mind like a forgotten name. You carry the lantern anyway. It was found beneath the floorboards of the steward's closet. It buried beneath a plank sealed shut with old brass nails and a single rotting glove. The lantern still burns, no oil, no wick, just fire steady and sickly yellow, like it's being fed by something older than fuel. You don't like holding it. It flickers when you blink and hums when you try to think. But no one else aboard will carry it. The deckhands won't touch it. The cook won't speak near it. And when you brought it to the captain's quarters, the door locked itself from the inside. The Mary Ellen still drifts. Its sails limp as tired lungs. Its compass broken again or pretending to be. No one speaks of what was found in the galley. You weren't meant to see it, but you heard the screaming, not loud, not panicked. Not even human, more like, sobbing through cloth. One of the new sailors, a boy from Newcastle with kind eyes and crooked teeth, had vanished. In his place, a pair of boots beside the pot of boiled barley. Still warm, still steaming, as if the cook had tried to cook him next. But that's not the worst of it. The real horror. No one asked questions. They just threw the barley overboard, quietly, lovingly, like it had done nothing wrong. You carry the lantern below. Each step feels like descending through candle wax, thick and slower than it should be. The flame doesn't sway. At the bottom, the brig. No one is ever put in the brig. There aren't even keys. But it's been used. You can tell by the scratch marks, the stains, and the single plate of untouched bread growing moss from a month ago. The flame hums louder here. You lower it. And something moves, not a rat, not a shadow, a boot, a single leather boot, twitching like it's still trying to walk. You lift the lantern higher, and you see the sailor's leg still inside it, from the shin down just the shin. Cleanly cut, no blood, bone like chalk. Skin dried like fruit. There's no body, no head, just the leg, standing. It doesn't fall. The lantern shakes in your hand. You wonder how long it's been standing there. If it was always just one leg, if the rest of him ever existed at all. You lean closer. The leg doesn't rot. It's too preserved, almost sculpted. And there's a smell in the brig that shouldn't be here. Not blood, not mold, mint, sweet and icy like a Victorian remedy, and suddenly you remember the captain's log, the one with torn pages near the back. The phrase, 2 doses calm the nerves, 3 bring silence, 4 erase. You take the lantern up. You want to run, but you don't, because when you look back down the corridor, every door is open, and behind each door a mirror, not hanging, standing, like they walked there themselves, each one reflecting not you, but a version of you, sleeping, yourself asleep in a chair, yourself asleep beneath a stairwell, yourself asleep with a coin in your mouth. You drop the lantern. It doesn't hit the ground, it hovers, and then it turns slowly toward one mirror, the one showing you asleep in a coffin, hands folded, eyes gently closed, a faint smile, but something is wrong, because it's not a coffin. It's the captain's bathtub. You don't sleep that night. No one does. The air smells of wax and rust. The salt on your tongue is thick, metallic, and yet the sea is calm, flat as a dining table, the kind you set for company you know will never arrive. You try to speak to the others, to ask what happened to the Newcastle boy, to the bread in the brig, to the door that locks itself. But they all say the same thing now. He left. He was never here. There was no boy. One of them even says, "What's a brig?" In your dreams, the lantern returns. Not in your hand, in your chest. You wake up coughing smoke. You taste mint again, and the distant sound of a metronome ticking somewhere below deck. One beat every 5 seconds, like a heart pretending to be alive. You go back. Of course you do. The ship lets you. The brig is open now. The leg is gone. But the boot is still there, full of wet salt and black buttons. You don't understand, but you pick one button up. It has a symbol etched into it, the same one from the Herald of Woe, the sister ship that vanished. A lopsided hourglass, tilted on its side, like time had tipped over and refused to get up. You show the button to the captain. He laughs, not cruelly, not nervously, more like he's been waiting for you to find it. It begins again with quiet breath. Salt air drifts in from the broken window panes. Somewhere above, a loose lantern swings from its rope, casting creaking shadows across the rotting stairwell. And beneath the ship's galley, buried beneath crates of rice, barrels of salt beef, and 100 mold-stained crates, lies a compartment no one wants to visit, and yet you are here, torch in hand. Boots wet, fingers trembling, you've come searching for the ship's medical supplies, because the girl with the blistered hands won't stop shivering, because the cook is coughing up what smells like copper, because you're starting to lose the feeling in your left foot. The others said to wait. They always say that. Wait for daylight. Wait for the first mate. Wait until the rats calm down. But daylight never really comes in this part of the Atlantic, not this season. And the first mate hasn't said a word since he tried to hang himself 3 days ago. So you came alone, and as you pry open the hatch to the surgeon's quarters, the smell pours out. It's not rot exactly. More like sweet vinegar and dried teeth. Like someone boiled a dentist's chair and sealed it in pine. You step inside. Curiosity is a cruel god. It leads you to places you would rather forget. The walls are lined with glass jars. Each holds something, a toe, a child's jawbone, a small animal's heart, pulsing faintly though it should not. One jar contains only breath. You know this because the label says so. / breath post mortem. / the floor is sticky with syrupy resin and blood that's turned black with time. In the corner stands the operating table. No one has touched it in weeks, and yet the sheets are still warm. You light another lantern. Your eyes fall upon the surgeon's chest, not his ribcage. The wooden chest nailed shut, with symbols carved so faintly you only notice them when the flame flickers just right. You count 3 locks, one already broken, one hanging loosely, and the third. Open, you do not remember unlocking it. Inside, linen wraps, old scissors, clotted leeches in a folded handkerchief, a notebook titled, *, Patients Who Refuse, * refuse what? You don't have time to read. You reach for the cloths, the alcohol, anything clean, anything that won't turn your patient into another ghost. But then, a sound behind you, something dragging, something wet. You turn too fast and the lantern dies. You freeze, the smell of sweet vinegar floods your nostrils again, but it's closer, as if breathing. You whisper, *, is someone there, * nothing. Then you're not sick enough. A man's voice, calm, gentle. Too gentle, you spin toward the sound, heart in your throat. But your torch is useless now. Just faint embers on the floor, you strike a match. He is sitting on the operating table, long coat, white as candle wax, gloves speckled with rust, face hidden behind a cloth mask stitched with black thread, eyes wide and dry, *, everyone comes to me, * he says, / but never soon enough. You try to speak, to ask who he is. But the words get lost in your teeth. He continues, adjusting a strap on his wrist. / pain is like fog. If you wait for it to lift, you never leave the shore. Then he raises a scalpel, but not toward you. He holds it to his own neck. The blade presses gently against skin. You watch, frozen, as he drags it downward. No blood, only dust, * I died weeks ago. * he says plainly. You shake your head. This is a hallucination. A fever dream. You haven't slept in days. The mold is getting into your mind, but the man steps down. Feet touch the floor with a soft wet slap. He walks past you and opens the surgeon's logbook. * a name, * you don't answer. He writes anyway, your name, correct spelling, right down to the middle initial. He underlines it, then draws a small bird next to it. A sparrow, no, a crow. Then he closes the book. The room starts to shake. Not a tremor, not wind, but breath, deep and long, like the ship itself is exhaling. The surgeon looks up. Backslash. She wakes. That's rare. She liked you. You back away. Asterisk. She, who, asterisk, but he does not answer. Instead, he lifts the lantern, now burning bright again, and says, backslash, some ships are built, others are born. And with that, he opens the far door, a door you never saw before. It leads deeper into the hull. The air turns green. He steps inside. The door closes behind him. You wait. You don't know how long. Your knees ache. Your ears ring. When you rise, the notebook is open again. But your name is gone. Only the crow remains, and under it, a second line. Asterisk, still breathing, for now. Asterisk, you stagger out of the surgeon's quarters with a fistful of wrappings and a bottle of brandy. The ship seems smaller now. Narrower, the doors don't lead where they did before. You pass by the dining room, but the table is gone. Just a pit now, with something crawling inside. When you reach the girl's bedside, she is not shivering. She is sweating, eyes open. Backslash, did you see him? She asks. You hesitate. Then you nod. She smiles faintly. Backslash, he helped me too. You look down, her hands, where the blisters had burst are wrapped in new cloth. Clean, perfect, not your wrappings. Someone else was here. You check your pockets. The ones you filled with cloth. They're still full. You never use them. Outside, the ocean groans. Something shifts beneath the floorboards. A whisper in your ear. Backslash, breathe while you can. But that wasn't even the worst part. The ship is quieter now, not because the winds have stilled, though they have, but because the bones have stopped moving. You lie awake, eyes open in the near dark, and listen to the planks breathe beneath your back. There is no creak from the masts, no skittering from the rats, just that peculiar stillness ships acquire when even the ghosts agree to sleep. Your arms are sore from rowing, shoulders blistered. You haven't seen land in days. But that is not what bothers you. No, it's the barrel, the one lashed beneath the rear stairwell, secured with rotting hemp, and brined in what smells like old apples and something far worse. You've passed it 100 times. But tonight it whispered. It was the cook who first said she was missing, the woman from Calcutta. You paused with your spoon in midair, already tired of new mysteries. The captain hadn't come up from his quarters in 2 days. The surgeon had been found face down in the sheep pen, and now another disappearance. There was no woman, said the quartermaster. Never was. But the cook insisted. A stowaway, maybe, or a cabin girl who never spoke. Quiet as fog. She peeled onions in the dark. He muttered, had eyes like coins. And yet, no one else remembered. Tonight, you cannot help yourself. You slip barefoot past the sleeping crew, each one bundled in their own cocoon of rum, stained cloth and silent regret. You crouch beside the barrel. It smells stronger now, sour, sweet, like cider poured over meat left in the sun. Your hand hesitates over the rope. The knots are curious. Someone cared enough to double, twist them with a sailor's precision, and then smudge the seams with wax, as if to keep something in, not out. You lean close, and again you hear it, faint, feminine. A sigh, or a whisper, or breath returning from the deep. The ship logs, when you finally pry them loose from the captain's desk, have a name you don't recognize. Passenger Manifest Addendum Miss V, Rameshwary, passage paid in silks, no surname given. Silks? This ship was meant to be carrying timber. You scan the page again, but someone's torn the lower corner. All that remains is a blotch of ink and the faint curve of what may have once been a signature. You search the ship. No silks, no luggage, no mention from the rest of the crew. Only that barrel and one long, dark hair clinging to the floor like a secret. The deck, and with the scarred throat finally speaks, though no one asked him to. She danced in the galley when the waves were kind, didn't have shoes, wore bracelets of green glass. You blink. You said there was no woman. He shrugs. I forgot, or I lied, or both. Doesn't matter now. Then he adds quietly, she went below after the captain's sermon. Never came back up. You hadn't known the captain gave sermons. You didn't know he could. That night the sky glows copper, not from sun or moon, but from lightning far off, caught in a storm that never arrives. You return to the barrel. This time the rope gives way easily, too easily, almost like it wanted you to try. You lift the lid. Inside darkness, not just shadow, but a soaking black. A color with depth, cold too, the kind that kisses your teeth and coils inside your lungs. And there, beneath a layer of soaked muslin, a face, not rotten, not bloated, just waiting. Her skin is smooth as carved ivory, her lips closed, her eyes open but not surprised, as if she expected you. You reach down, but the ship lurches, not from wave, not from wind, but from inside. Something shifts beneath the boards. A groan deep and wooden echoes across the hull like a slow yawn. You stagger back. The lid slips from your hands. She is gone. In the morning the barrel is empty. The cook won't meet your eyes. The quartermaster locks the galley door. The scarred sailor climbs the rigging and does not come down again. You check the log, Miss V. Rameshwary gone, but beneath the ink, where the signature once was, a wet bloom of red has appeared. Still damp, like a thumbprint or a warning, you do not sleep that night. You cannot, because below the floorboards something paces. It does not creak, it does not speak, but it remembers, and that wasn't even the worst part. Title: Dead on Arrival, The Victorian Ship of Skeletons, Part 10. What the bones remember the wind that night was colder than the night before, not just cold in the usual way, but bitter, like the breath of something old and watching. You lie curled near the ship's galley, half wrapped in a borrowed sailcloth, and dream of iron fences and piano keys with broken teeth. But you wake to a sound, not footsteps, not whispers, asterisk asterisk bones, asterisk asterisk a hollow tapping. As if someone was stirring a wooden spoon in a bucket of knuckles. You blink your dry eyes, roll up to sit and listen. It stops, you wait, it starts again, so you move slowly. Your knees crack like wood under strain. The galley creaks, the corridor bends like it's breathing. You pass the empty dining room, the crooked portraits, and the teacups still lined in rows, each one with a perfect ring of rot at the bottom. The sound grows louder, asterisk asterisk tap, tap, drag, asterisk asterisk you pass the captain's cabin, locked still, then you reach the stairs to the cargo hold, the air changes, thicker, warmer, like someone's been sweating down there. You go down, 1 step, 2, a soft shiver in your gut. 3 steps, 4, a muffled clink. Your hand grazes a rail sticky with salt and rust. You reach the bottom. The door to the hold is slightly open. Inside, shadows and crates and bones, not loose piles, but arranged, asterisk asterisk neatly. Asterisk asterisk a row of femurs laid in parallel like bed slats, skulls stacked in a crooked pyramid, ribs nailed onto the wooden walls in curved, blooming spirals. As if someone were decorating or remembering, you whisper into the dark, "Who did this?" And a voice, quiet and dry, replies, "I did." You freeze, then lean forward slowly. There's a shape low to the ground, half, covered in burlap and old sails. A figure crouching over a hip bone, using what looks like a fork. He turns. It's the cook, or it asterisk was asterisk the cook. His face is drawn tight, his eyes small as seeds, sunken far behind cheeks that never stopped sweating. His apron hangs like a shroud, and in his hand he holds a tiny bundle of wires, wound into something like a cage. You ask what he's doing. He doesn't look up. Bones remember. The ship remembers. He flicks a tooth from a jaw. If we leave them lying, they'll rise wrong. You step back. He goes on, I didn't kill him. That was the captain's work. But I've been binding what's left, keeping their silence. You glance around. Every surface is layered with old bones, ship rope, and melted candles. Someone's spine has been tied like a ladder to a beam. This isn't right. You whisper. The cook shrugs. Neither's dying in a pantry with a broken leg and a belly full of salt. He points to a figure in the corner wrapped in cloth. Smaller, arms crossed, no face showing. That one was a child. You sit. You can't speak for a while. The cook lights another candle with shaking hands. You notice his boots are wrapped in bandages. His legs tremble, barely holding him. He says he stayed because he couldn't leave the mess. They'll come for the ship. He mutters, government boys, fancy letters. They'll want the cargo, but they won't take the dead. You ask why he arranged them like this. To remind the ship what happened, who was lost. Then he turns to you, and now you know, so you get to choose. You ask, choose what? He stands with effort, picks up a rusted tin box. Take this, proof, but go, before it turns. You ask what turns. He just smiles, you'll feel it, in your teeth, in your blood. You climb back up the stairs, the box rattles, inside, letters, a photograph. A logbook smeared with ink. One page torn, folded, still warm from his hands. It reads, asterisk asterisk, a cargo manifest falsified. Passengers marked as specimens. Captain ordered disposal. Storm delayed plan. Skeletons rose, or maybe, they never fell. Asterisk asterisk, you sit on the deck. The sky is pale gray. The ship creaks. Below you, something shifts, slowly. You don't know if the cook is still alive. You don't know what you'll do with the box, or if it matters. But you remember this. The ship knew. And it kept sailing. Asterisk, but what lay sealed behind the captain's cabin door was even worse. Asterisk, that, you see, was never meant to be opened. Asterisk asterisk, but that is a story for tomorrow night. Asterisk asterisk. There's a page missing. You notice it only because your fingers hesitate. You've been thumbing through the captain's logbook again, tracing the embossed letters, the sweat-warped corners. It smells of old brine and something else. Sash, maybe. Or bone dust. But somewhere near the middle, a page has been torn cleanly out. No jagged edges, no hasty rip, just absence, deliberate and neat. You look around the cabin. The lamps flicker slightly in the oil. Thick air, and the ship groans in her sleep. No one stirs. The sailors who remain alive have long since stopped caring where you go, what you read. But that page, that missing page bothers you, because the entry just before it mentions asterisk asterisk, something found in the cargo asterisk asterisk. And the entry just after it is oddly cheerful, fake cheerful, like a child pretending they weren't crying. You reach for the ink pot, dip the feathered pen, and write in the margin, asterisk. What cargo did they find? Asterisk, the answer doesn't come in words. It comes in motion, a thunk, then a roll, then silence. Something shifts deep below in the lowest hold. You shouldn't go alone, but you do. The lower decks reek of rot and salt, and the iron tang of old coins. You hold a lantern in front of you, the flame shielded by cracked glass. Each step down feels more like a descent into a tomb than a ship. You pass the quarters where the rats once thrived. Past the cargo hold filled with empty crates. Then you see it, a crate that shouldn't be there, smaller, out of place, covered in canvas. The canvas is damp, not from water, from blood. You pull it back, and beneath, a child's coffin, not a sarcophagus, not a cargo case. A real, carved, painted, asterisk asterisk Victorian child's coffin asterisk asterisk. White wood, brass latches, lilies etched along the lid. Your breath fogs the air. You don't touch it. You don't have to. Because something is written on the lid in red, looping script. Asterisk asterisk, property of HMS Providentia. Do not open. Asterisk asterisk Providentia. That wasn't this ship's name. Back in your quarters, you pore through the surviving charts. And they're tucked in the edge of a folded map of the Mediterranean. You find it. Asterisk asterisk HMS Providentia asterisk asterisk. Lost at sea. 1008. 151. Crew presumed drowned. Cargo never recovered. Except maybe it was. Maybe the Mary Anselm picked it up. Maybe they found that coffin floating alone on the tide. And maybe someone on board had the bright idea to *** keep it. *** that night, you don't sleep. You try. You even put away the logbook. Wrap your coat around yourself like armor. But the floorboards creak, the waves slap harder, and there's a sound, soft and repeated, like a single knuckle tapping wood. * tap, tap, tap. * from below. You tell yourself it's the ship settling, or a loose rope. Or memory, but in the morning there's another thing out of place. Not a missing page this time. Not a torn cloth or open drawer. It's a ledger, the first mate's, and in it the last entry, written in shaky hand. ***. The captain says not to tell, but it dreams it wakes, and soon it walks. ***. You close the book. The lantern goes out. You hear it again, that slow, even tapping. ***, tap, tap, tap. ***, and then it stops. But that wasn't even the worst part. Your eyes sting from the salt, but you do not blink, because you can't. Because ahead, in the fog, you see it again, that strange yellow light bobbing on the port side. Not the stars, those gave up hours ago. Not lanterns from a rescue ship. You checked, twice. It's something else, something handheld. Someone's out there, walking where no one should walk. It began just before the storm. A low knock on your cabin door. Not frantic, not polite, just deliberate. You've been scribbling nonsense in the captain's log, trying to invent reasons for the empty hammocks, trying to stitch together a story in neat lines of ink. You remember saying, "Come in," though your throat barely made the shape, and there he was, not a ghost, not quite a man, just a figure in a blacksmith's apron, soaked through. He carried something long wrapped in canvas, about the size of a child's coffin. You stared at it stupidly until he spoke. "It's for the girl." He meant the cabin maid, the one who coughed herself into silence 3 days ago. You hadn't told the crew yet. You hadn't buried her either. The sea was too rough. You opened your mouth, but no words. He unwrapped the bundle slowly. Inside, a perfect coffin, child-sized, carved from pearwood, smelled faintly of almonds. You looked up to ask who he was. But he was already gone. The door hadn't opened. You carry the coffin to the stern yourself, cradling it like a memory you can't afford. Your hands go numb. Pearwood is heavier than it looks. The waves below slap each other like gossiping wives. You lower her into the sea. No hymn, no bell, just wind, and when you turn around, the man is standing at the helm, no lantern, just watching. You walk toward him slowly, afraid if you blink, he'll vanish. "Did you build that?" He nods. You squint. His apron is wrong. Too clean, too dry, and the salt air passes through him like smoke. He says, "I built them all." He won't say where he comes from, but every night since, another coffin appears. Always custom-sized, always perfectly carved, left outside your cabin door like a gift you never asked for. They match no wood you recognize. You never hear him hammer. never smell sawdust, just the knock. The bundle, the vanishing, and the slow, increasing silence on board. 3 more men were dead by week's end. No wounds. Just a look on their faces like they'd remembered something too clearly. You asked the cook to help bury them. He refused, said the wood was cursed, said it burned too slow, smoked too sweet. He tossed one coffin overboard. It floated, then turned, then knocked once, twice, like someone was inside. You told him never to touch the coffins again. That night the cook disappeared. No trace, just his boots neatly side by side, still warm. You ask the coffin maker, why do you bring them? He says, so they won't be forgotten. You say, but no one remembers them. He replies, that's the point. He lights his own lantern only once. You see it on the starboard side, flickering gently like a heartbeat. You follow the light to the bow, expecting to find the fog thinner, the horizon clearer. Instead, you see coffins, dozens of them, stacked like firewood across the deck. Silent, waiting, the wood glows faintly, like moonlight trapped inside, and on each lid, a carving, not names, not crosses, faces, each face perfectly sculpted, down to the wrinkle above the left brow, the crooked tooth, the stubborn scar, all of them captured in wood, as if by someone who had kissed them once. One face is yours. You stare at it, breathing too hard, and the wind doesn't move your hair. In the morning, the coffins are gone, not overboard, just gone. The deck is clean, even the salt is scrubbed away. You go to the helm, searching for the coffin maker, but he's not there, just a lantern. Lit, hanging from a nail that wasn't there yesterday. The light doesn't flicker. It waits. The crew won't look at you anymore, not the ones who remain. They mutter about shadows that whisper, about dreams of being carved. One says his hands smell like almonds. You don't tell him what that means. Instead, you mark one more name in the logbook, but you don't sign it. The ink keeps fading. Tonight, the lantern glows stronger. And again, a knock. You don't open the door. You sit on your bunk, hands folded, and wait. You whisper, how many more? A voice like wind through canvas replies, until they forget even you. You rise. Walk to the door. Open it. But there is no man. Just a coffin, slightly larger than the rest, carved into... The water was wrong that night. It didn't churn. It didn't slap against the hull. It didn't even whisper. It just hovered, still as oil, quiet as linen. You open your eyes to it. You weren't asleep, exactly. But you were somewhere else, lost inside the seams of your own mind, adrift in memory or madness. The groan of the ship is gone. Even the rats seem to hold their breath. And in that silence, something changes. The smell, you smell it first. It's not rot that's too familiar. This is sharp, bright, like metal shaved into air. You sit up. A mist has risen, but not the normal kind. This one is low, like someone poured milk across the deck. It curls around boots, ankles, barrels. No source, no shape, no weight, just there. And then a whisper, no words, just breathe. Like wind trapped in someone else's lungs. You rise slowly. The boards under your feet creak like they're trying to warn you. Your hands feel too big, your heart too loud. You press one palm to the mast, grounding yourself. It's warm, but not from the sun, from something else. The captain's quarters are open. You didn't leave them that way. Inside, the chair rocks gently, empty. The map table is bare except for one thing. A jawbone, polished, small, human, laid neatly beside the compass. The captain is nowhere. You back away slowly, eyes wide. Then something tugs, your coat, a child's hand. You whirl no one, just that fog, winding tighter now, like it's listening. Your breath shortens. You begin counting your steps, a habit from childhood, when the cellar frightened you. 1, 2, 3 you stop, because standing at the far end of the deck is a man. No, not a man, a silhouette, hollow as a bell. Hat brim low, coat long. But where his chest should be, you see only the sea through him. He lifts one hand, not to wave, to point at the mast. Your eyes follow. Scratched into the wood too deep to be a knife are the words. Asterisk, asterisk, we never left. Asterisk, asterisk, you stagger back. The man is gone, but something thuds behind you. Something small, something real. It's the jawbone. It has moved. It now sits at your feet. Your hands tremble. You pick it up, and underneath it's scratched faintly into the planks. Asterisk, asterisk. Find her name. Asterisk, asterisk. You don't know what it means. But you will. You look to the horizon. A light flickers. No, not a lighthouse. Not fire. Not even lanterns. A signal from another ship. It blinks in triplets. Dot, dot, dot. Dash, dash, dash. Dot, dot, dot. S, but you're not the one sending it. You are the one receiving it. You blink slowly, and now the deck is full of footsteps, bare feet, heavy boots, rustling cloth, humming. A low hum like lullabies sung by the dead. You drop the jawbone, it clatters, rolls, falls through a crack. Gone, and so is the mist, and the light, and the figure. You're alone again, but the words on the mast remain. Asterisk, asterisk, we never left. Asterisk, asterisk, and under your feet. The ship hums, like it's remembering something or someone. You breathe in. You whisper to the air, who didn't leave. No reply, only wind. But that wind smells different now, like lilies, like morning. Like perfume on a pillow that hasn't been touched in years. And somewhere, far below deck, something knocks. Once, twice, then nothing. Sleep doesn't come that night. Only memories that aren't yours. But that wasn't even the worst part. The flame shouldn't be lit. You know that. Every part of you knows that the captain's orders, the soaked wood, the suffocating dark. But here it is anyway, a candle, just one, and burning low, flickering faintly in the sealed officers' quarters like some quiet act of mutiny against the darkness. You breathe too sharply. It coughs. The wax slides like melting skin. The smell of tallow and salt clings in your throat. The air in this cabin is wrong. It's not just old, it's tense, as if something once tried to scream here and failed. You inch closer, holding your breath. The flame dances, almost apologetically, above a cracked porcelain dish. It's wedged between two weathered logbooks and something else, something cloth, wrapped. Something square. You glance toward the door, still latched shut, still alone. You should blow it out, but you don't. The cloth is older than you expected, thin like old skin, brittle, yellowed by salt and mildew. When you peel it back, you reveal what looks like a journal. But it isn't the captain's log, it's older, wrapped tight in thick string, and bound with a type of seal you've only seen once. The emblem of a condemned medical ship. A ghost ship, one of the ones that never returned. You hesitate. Your palms are damp. There's something about holding it, the texture. The impossible weight that feels like pulling something dead out of the sea. The first page is handwritten in tiny, agonized lines. We were not supposed to anchor, but they begged us, and the child, that's all. The ink runs off. You flip further. Maps, drawings, sketches of strange plants, organs, a man's face with his eyes hollowed out and stitched shut. No names, no signatures, only numbers. Experiment 27, Experiment 28, Experiment 29 failed, and then a page. Blank except for one line, asterisk, asterisk. The marrow remembers, asterisk, asterisk, the flame hiccups. You look up. The candle is nearly gone now, just a thumbprint of flame wobbling on a curve of wax. Your shadow shudders on the wall. It feels wrong to be here, like this cabin never wanted to be entered again. You step back, slowly. Your heel strikes something soft, a canvas sack. No, a wrapped uniform, folded, too carefully. There's no dust, as if someone has been here. Recently, you crouched down on the collar and insignia. Not the captain's, not any officer's. This uniform belonged to someone erased. You're not supposed to know this part of the ship exists. That's what's clawing at your spine now. The logbook, the candle. The preserved clothes, it means someone has been preserving this room, keeping it sealed, keeping it untouched or almost. There's a bottle beside the candle, dark glass, faded label, *** laudanum, *** heavy, half empty. You know that smell. You know what it's used for, and worse, what it was once used to silence. You step back, clutching the edge of the desk now, and feel something give beneath your hand. A false drawer, a click. The compartment opens. Inside is hair, just a single braid, blonde, bound at the end with a rusted pin. Your breath leaves you. You know this isn't just a secret, it's a shrine. Someone, somewhere, wanted this memory sealed in shadow, preserved like a body below deck. A memory of pain, wrapped in cloth and candlelight, forgotten by command. Why, you blow the candle out. The darkness rushes back in, but you take the braid, the journal, and the bottle. Not out of theft, out of defense. If this ship ever reaches port, someone will want answers. You don't yet know what the questions will be, but you do know this. The skeletons weren't the beginning. They were the apology. But that wasn't even the worst part. The lantern flickers, but not because of wind. There is no wind here, no breath of sea air, no sway of hull against wave. The walls of the ship hold tight like a clenched jaw, and the air is still. You light the flame again anyway, more for ritual than reason. Its dim glow reveals something strange on the woodwork. A seam, a crack, a sliver of a door that wasn't there yesterday. You swallow hard. The rest of the crew sleeps in groaning hammocks or lies curled on the deck like spent coins. But you are awake, you always are now, ever since the captain stopped speaking, ever since the cook's shadow forgot how to match his feet. You press your palm against the crack, and it opens. Inside is a narrow stair. Not carved, not built ***, grown ***. You think absurdly, like bones twisting down through marrow. Each step moans as you descend, not from weight, but from memory. The wood here is too damp, too dark, too. Aware, at the bottom you find her, a woman, kneeling, unmoving, face turned to the corner like a punished child, her thin gray gown pooled around her like spilled fog. Her hair is long, black, brittle like kelp dried on deck ropes. Her back rises and falls. She is breathing. You want to speak, but you remember the rule. ***, do not talk to the ones you find below. ***, you step backward, but her voice stops you. Have they finished painting the bones yet? It's not a question, not truly. It's a sentence with memory stitched into it, like she's answering something no one asked. You whisper, "What bones?" She turns slowly. Her face is worn, creased like aged paper, eyes gray as sea glass, mouth thin and unsmiling. She is not angry. She is not kind. She is something in between. You should return. She says, but you don't. You ask again. What bones? She lifts one hand, not to point, but to show. Her fingers are dipped in red. Not paint, not rust. It's fresher than that. I tried to finish them, she says, before he arrived. You think she means the captain, or maybe the sea itself. There is a canvas nailed to the wall behind her. Crudely stretched linen, a painted figure, a man with no face, only a bleeding smile and long, tapering arms that drag behind him like wet sails. Who is he? You whisper. She laughs, and it's soft, sweet. Empty, he's the one who knocks when no one's on board. You look around, there is no door, only the stairs you descended, but they are gone. She sighs. You stayed too long. Now the walls will keep you too. You wake on the deck. The same as always, only your hands are stained red. The painting is on the underside of your bunk now. A man with no face, a bleeding smile. The linen is still damp. The captain walks past you. He pauses, just long enough to whisper, "You saw her." You say nothing. He continues, "She used to be the ship. You don't understand, but you don't need to, not yet. Because in the next hour, when you reach into the food barrel, you'll find a human tooth. Not old, not fossilized. Still warm, and that wasn't even the worst part." The floorboards creak again, but this time not from your own weight. Something lighter, scratching, like pages turned by a hand no longer there. You haven't moved in some time. You're still crouched near the captain's quarters, still halves, wallowed by the corridor's shadows. But the air has shifted again. No longer damp salt or moldy ropes. No longer whale oil or rotted provisions. Now it smells like beeswax and scorched ink. That particular scent warm paper, slightly bitter, the kind used to seal old envelopes shut. The kind nobles used for secrets they didn't want unwrapped by time. Your hand brushes the floor, and then you notice it. A writing desk, not large, barely wider than your shoulders, but finely carved, with carved legs rubbed smooth by the backs of long, dead knees. It's a Victorian writing slope, the kind used in naval cabins for correspondence, logbooks, coded letters. You don't remember seeing it before. You were here. You remember this space, and yet, there it sits. Waiting, you swallow. Your thumb still smells faintly of old rope, but your hand rises anyway. The lid creaks open. Inside, resting in a velvet-lined pocket, is a ledger. At first, you think it's just old calf leather, the standard material for maritime journals. But your gut, that traitor muscle that recognizes danger long before your brain agrees, whispers something else. This is human skin. The leather is too taut, too fine, pores too small, stretched too thin. You remember stories whispered in corners of apothecaries and taverns near the docks about rich men binding books in the flesh of the condemned. You stare at it a moment longer, and then you open the cover. The first page is blank, and the next, and the one after that. Then suddenly a date appears, April 12th, 1856, underlined with the sort of precision that feels false, too clean for the hand of a sea, weathered captain. Beneath it, in neat cursive, 3 passengers dead, 2 of them still standing, have assigned Mr. Wren to tie the ropes tighter tonight. You pause. You've seen logs before they speak in tides and tonnage, not in riddles and ghosts. This entry reads like guilt, like a memory someone tried to bury beneath ink. You turn the page, April 14th. The cook insists he never lit the fire. I tasted ash in the bread. We buried the steward in the lime crates. Your stomach clenches. You were in the cargo hold. You didn't see any graves, but there were crates, some heavy, some leaking. You thought it was brine. You turn faster now. Each page is heavier than the last, as though the ink has absorbed more than words. Some entries describe weather, knots, broken sails. Others, veer. The youngest boy confessed he never had a name. Said they called him Spare. I promised him a letter. Never wrote it. We turned back from Singapore. No port would have us. The surgeon stopped asking questions. Mr. Wren speaks to the bones now. You flinch. That name again, Wren. The first mate. You remember the brass plate above his hammock, and the way the ship creaked in reply to his name. But why does it feel like he's still aboard? Your eyes lift. The corridor behind you is empty. Only coils of rope. Only stillness. And yet you flip another page. This one isn't written in ink. It's etched, clawed into the parchment like fingernails dragging across a confession. No more entries. No more stories. They said the ship was mine, but it never was. The words trail off. The rest of the page is blackened. As if someone burned the memory out. You close the ledger, but the wood of the writing desk is warm, too warm. You breathe out, and to your surprise, a ghostly cloud appears in the air. It isn't cold, but your breath is visible, as if the ship is exhaling something back. Then you hear it, that sound again, the scratching, but softer now, like a quill dragging across old flesh, and then it stops, because something has changed. You look down, the final page of the ledger is no longer blank. A new line has appeared damp, as though freshly written. In the same dainty, trembling hand, there is one more aboard, still reading, still writing, still alive. Your skin bristles. Your name isn't in the ledger. You were never written down. You were never meant to survive this voyage, and someone is correcting that mistake. You stand up too fast and knock the desk over. It crashes against the wall, and the ledger slaps to the floor, face down. Pages flutter like dying wings, and in the silence that follows, you hear footsteps above deck, measured, slow, 2 sets. And then a third dragging something behind it. You back away, heart hammering. You feel the word before you understand it. Cargo. It clings to your bones like old canvas, like the damp sailcloth used to wrap the dead. The desk behind you seems to breathe now, ever so slightly, pages curling inward. The ink drying slower than it should, and your name, or lack of one, echoes louder in your skull than any voice. You were never in the ship's manifest. Not a passenger, not crew. So what were you? Your feet move before your thoughts do, down the corridor, past the skeletal hammock still swaying from no wind. The lantern above it flickers not from breeze, but from memory. You descend back to the cargo hold. You need to know. The crates you once stepped over now seem different. You recognize the way they're arranged, not stacked like supplies, but lined up like beds. No markings, no destinations. Only one shared symbol carved into the side of each box, an open eye. At first, you thought it was a maker's mark, a carpenter's flourish. Now you're not so sure. Your fingertips trace one crate's lid. It's soft with age. Salt-eaten. You wedge a rusted iron bar under the edge and pry. The wood splits with a crack like broken teeth. Inside is fabric, folded neatly. You lift a corner, linen, blood, stiff, monogrammed with a stitched W. Your breath catches. Wren. You peel back more layers, gloves, letters, a diary stained with something blacker than ink. A child's wooden toy, a tooth, and underneath it all rope. The same kind you found knotted by the captain's door. Short lengths, cut deliberately, ends frayed by force, not time, not rope for sailing. Rope for tying, for binding, for keeping something inside. You stagger back. Your spine bumps another crate, and then another. They're all identical, and one by one, your eyes adjust to see it. Subtle stains along the edges. Salt-crusted, but not from the sea. These weren't shipping containers, they were coffins. You inhale sharply and choke. The air has shifted again. There's something metallic in it now. Not blood, exactly. Older, like iron that remembers mouths. You spin toward the far end of the cargo bay. There, half, covered in canvas, is a larger container. Oblong, heavier, bolted with rusted iron clamps. It hums, not with noise, but with a kind of pressure. Like your teeth will shatter if you don't look inside. You approach. The lock is ceremonial. A twisted iron latch shaped like a hand. It comes off too easily. You lift the lid, and what you see does not blink. Because it no longer has eyes, but it is you, your hair, your coat, your boots, still stained from the mud at port. A perfect mirror down to the faded scar near the collarbone you never knew you had until you saw it here. Until now, but this version of you curled up and still is long gone. Its skin is waxy, its lips pulled tight as if silencing a scream. Its arms are bound, its mouth is stitched, and in its hand is a note, clenched so tightly the fingernails cracked. If this is the real me, then who is walking? You fall backward, gasping, tripping over the canvas, covered crate behind you. This can't be a dream. Because dreams don't breathe beneath your fingernails. Dreams don't smell like mildew and sealed skin. Dreams don't leave dust on your tongue. Your double's head shifts slightly as the ship creaks. You scramble upright. Your heartbeat is hammering now, but it's off beat. Every second beat is wrong. Like your body doesn't believe in you anymore. Your name was never on the log, because your name was never meant to be carried. You weren't a passenger. You weren't crew. You were cargo, and then something else. The candle beside the crate flutters. A breeze from nowhere, a sigh, and then a knock behind you, 2 sharp taps. Followed by silence, your breath stills. You don't turn around, you can't, but you feel it, the presence, like a memory that's grown teeth. Another knock, you spin nothing, except. On the far wall, just above the crates, is a strange panel. It wasn't there before, or maybe it was, but your eyes refused to see. A small brass plate, round, a spy hole. You step forward, slowly, each footfall deafening. The spy hole is no bigger than a coin. You peer through. And for a moment, just a flicker, you see another ship, not from outside, from within. The ledger is gone. You remember closing it. You remember the soft click of its warped leather binding, the chill that bled from its cover into your fingertips. You remember the way the air seemed to pause around you, like a breath held in the lungs of the ship itself. But now the desk is empty. No scorch marks, no scent of beeswax, not even a dust print where the ledger had been. Just smooth wood. Warm beneath your hand, you whisper to yourself. Something small, something to hear your own voice again. But the sound comes back wrong, not echoed, reversed. You hear the end before the beginning. The corridor behind you has changed. Where once there were ropes, crates, salt, damp wood, and a faint line of daylight through cracked planks, now there is only shadow. Heavy, unmoving, a kind of darkness that doesn't feel empty. You stand. Your joints complain. Your knees crack like old sails pulled too tight. Your breath makes small clouds in the air again. You feel watched. But not with malice, with memory. This ship remembers you. Your steps guide you toward the captain's quarters. You don't decide to move, your body simply goes, like something tied to a chain far below the waterline. A pull, a summons, the hallway narrows. Each step takes longer than it should. Your legs drag. The grain of the floorboards seems deeper now, almost chiseled, as if by hands desperate to stay standing. Your hand touches the wall to balance, and that's when you feel it carved into the timber, almost invisible unless you know what to look for. Don't trust the man who forgets your name. You pause. You whisper it aloud. The air swells for a moment, almost like breath against your ear. Then silence again. The captain's door looms ahead, not as grand as you expected. It's smaller, warped, hinges rusted. A faint mark where something once hung, a brass plaque, perhaps, now missing. You reach for the handle. It turns too easily, inside. A room frozen in the middle of something, not death, not life, a pause. The desk is cluttered, but the clutter feels intentional, objects placed with care, ritual even, a compass with no needle, a pair of gloves stitched with bone, colored thread, a teacup empty, rim cracked, and a framed miniature portrait of someone you don't recognize, but somehow miss. The scent in the room is different from the rest of the ship. Pine tar, ink, a whisper of pipe smoke. The bed is made. But the pillow bears the shape of a skull, and in the chair, you stop breathing. Someone sits there, but they are not moving, not breathing, not dead, not alive. You edge closer, slow, as if you might scare them away, as if they might shatter if you blink. The man's face is sunken, skin stretched tight over cheekbones, hair silver and long as sea grass. His eyes are closed, lids papery thin, but in his lap, another ledger. You reach for it. He doesn't stir. The book is heavier than it looks, bound not in skin this time, but in something rougher. Sailcloth, stained with salt. The first page is torn out. The second reads, "To the last passenger, if you read this, then the ship chose you. I am sorry. You were never meant to remember." You blink. The room seems to lurch ever so slightly, as if the hull shifted against the weight of your name. You flip forward, more entries, but these are different. Not records, not logs, letters, all addressed to no one, or to someone who never answered. I asked the storm to spare them. It didn't listen. The crew whispered about the cargo, but it wasn't the barrels. It was always the silence. They came aboard already dead. We just didn't bury them yet. One letter stands out, folded between the pages, handwriting smaller, more fragile. You unfold it slowly. Wren lied. That's all it says. You lower the page. The man in the chair is watching you, eyes open, but not surprised. His voice is a whisper of sailcloth and grave dirt. You opened it. He says, you nod. You want to speak, but your throat is full of tidewater and regret. His gaze doesn't waver, but something behind his eyes is gone, like a lantern flickering in an empty house. I kept it locked, he says. Every time. I swore I would never read it again, but it... The ship has stopped rocking. That's the first thing you notice, the waves. Gone, the creaking spine of the vessel, still. Even the ever-humming air, the constant shifting of ropes and canvas above. Silent. You're still in the hold, still breathing, but something has shifted, like time forgot to pass. Your fingers cling to the edge of the bunk. You half expect it to shudder beneath your weight, but the wood stays quiet. Too quiet, like it's holding its breath. You listen, nothing, not even the sea, and then, a drip, not water, thicker. You tilt your head toward the source, one drop, then another, a slow rhythm, like a cracked metronome. You follow the sound. It's coming from behind the crates stacked near the starboard wall. Crates you thought were nailed shut. Crates marked with red wax and no-name labels. You pass by the rope coil where you once saw the rat skeleton curled like a question mark. Gone now, the drip grows louder, still slow, still measured. You edge closer. Your boot crunches softly on a pile of salt. That's new. The salt's been disturbed, not spilled, not scattered, disturbed. As if something climbed through it. Something that dragged itself, clawing with elbows or teeth. You feel it again. That strange sense you are both trespasser and trapped. That the ship is no longer a ship, but a diary written in blood you haven't bled yet. You round the final crate. There, nestled between two splintered barrels, is the source of the sound. Salt, a barrel full of it, half, sealed, and something inside it. Shifts, your throat tightens, not because of what you see, but because of what you don't. A boot, a pale ankle. Just enough flesh to be human. Just enough to be buried. You kneel. The salt looks coarse and dry, but the closer you get, the wetter it seems, like it's sweating. Or weeping, you reach out, a soft crunch, a flinch, then fingers emerge. They're not yours. They rise slowly, knuckle by knuckle, out of the salt like pale worms, thin as driftwood and shaking from the cold. One nail is missing. The others are cracked and blackened. The hand reaches toward you, not to grab, but to offer, and in its palm, a letter, still folded, still sealed with wax. The red is bright, impossibly vivid against the gray flesh. The wax bears no crest, no name, just a single pressed mark, a spiral, almost like a shell. You take it gently. The fingers collapse back into the salt without resistance, like they were only waiting for someone to take the message. You unfold the letter, no date, no greeting, just, I tried to warn them, but salt does not keep secrets, it only preserves them. Then another line, lighter, faded, like the ink was running out, or the hand that wrote it was. He drowned before we set sail. You blink. What? You glance back into the barrel. The hand is gone, reburied or never there. The salt looks still again, but your fingers are wet, and the letter is warm. You step back. Your boot crunches again, this time on something sharper. You look down, teeth, human, white, unbroken, a whole row, like someone left a smile behind and forgot the rest of the face. You don't pick them up. Some things aren't yours to carry. You climb the ladder back to mid-deck. Everything smells different now, not just mildew and rope, but ink, lemon oil, matches, a library. You hesitate, but only for a breath. The captain's quarters call to you again, but not with a voice, with a memory you haven't lived yet. The hallway door stands open this time. Inside, the cabin has changed again. No longer wrecked. No papers on the floor. No storm lantern. Instead, a velvet chair, a globe, a smoking pipe that curls lazy ghost rings into the air. The room smells. Occupied, and there he is, sitting with his back to you, looking out the window. The pipe balanced in one hand, the other resting on the armrest, fingers loose and long. His coat is navy, worn velvet, shoulder epaulettes half unraveled. His hair is white, not from age, but from salt. Brittle and stiff like dried seaweed. You don't speak. You can't, but he does. His voice is calm, gentle, and not meant for you. I told them not to sign. Not without reading. You stay frozen, but sailors don't read, do they? They follow, they obey, they vanish. His head tilts slightly. You realize he doesn't see you, not truly. This isn't a conversation. It's a confession. She wasn't supposed to sail. She was meant to rot at anchor. But they needed the money. They needed the cargo, salt and silence. You remember the barrels. He exhales. Wren knew. He always knew. He said the keel was too thin, that the hull whispered at night. You swallow. You've heard it too. But I signed the manifest anyway. The ledger is closed now, but the air hasn't returned to silence. Something lingers, not just the ghost of ink or the distant groan of timber, but something slower, softer, like breath caught in a mouth that no longer needs to breathe. You're still kneeling by the captain's desk. The velvet of the writing slope is warm beneath your fingertips, as though someone else's hand just left it. Your knees ache. Your spine is stiff, and the ship shifts not in the usual way, not the lazy roll of waves or the sleepy creak of salt, soaked boards. No, this is quieter, stranger, as if the Mary Celeste has just remembered something, and it's not ready to let you leave. You stand slowly. Above deck, the wind is gone. The sails hang like pale linen lungs, emptied. The rigging is still, the sky a dull, sleepless gray. The ocean surrounds you in every direction, but it doesn't move. Like you've stepped into a painting one that was never finished, and somewhere below, you hear humming, not music exactly, not melody, a sound made by no mouth, but you know it, you've heard it before. On the edge of dreams, or perhaps, at the end of them, you follow it, back down the narrow stairs, past the crew quarters, past the galley with its cold stove and forgotten spoons. Each room watches you now or listens, maybe. Even the silence leans in. You stop outside the storage room, the one with the empty lime crates. Your palm rests against the door. It feels wrong, too smooth, too warm, like breath on glass or skin on skin. You push it open. It shouldn't be this deep. You step into the hold, but it stretches on longer than before, longer than a ship should allow. And there, in the center, is the child, the one from the log. Spare, he's sitting cross, legged on the floor, arms folded, head tilted. He has no shadow. He hums without lips. You freeze, but he doesn't look up, not at first, and when he does, it's not with malice. Not with threat, just tiredness, ancient and soft. They forgot me. He says, not quite aloud. His voice is a memory of a voice, a sound trapped in wood. They always forget. That's how they leave. You want to ask what he means, but your throat is dry, tongue heavy with salt. He stands slowly, not like a boy, but like something pretending to be one. His feet make no sound. Do you still have your name? He asks, and you do. Don't you? You try to say it, but all that comes out is breath. His head tilts again. They kept the ledger to remember. He whispers, but the ones who write it never do. He holds out his hand. It's not threatening, just final, and in his other hand you hadn't noticed before he holds a key. Brass, small, warm. You can stay, he says, or you can finish it. Your chest tightens. The choice doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a debt. Your fingers close around the key. It thrums gently, like a heartbeat you didn't know you had. You look down. The child is gone. So is the room. You're standing in the captain's quarters again. Alone, and on the desk, the ledger, open now, waiting. But this time there's a pen and ink, still wet. Your hand trembles. The key feels heavy in your pocket. You sit, slowly. The pen fits your fingers like it remembers them. You dip it once and write. Your name, one line, slanted, shaky, but real. The ink doesn't bleed. The page accepts you. A gust of wind rises, soft but sure. Above deck, you hear the sails flap finally like lungs taking air. You close the book. The ship exhales. Outside, the sky begins to weep. Not a storm, just a soft morning rain. The kind that remembers. You climb the steps. The deck is damp. The world is moving again. And the Mary Celeste, she no longer creaks. She breathes. You look back only once. The ledger is gone. The desk, dusted with salt. The child is nowhere, but his hum stays with you, tucked behind the ear, like a lullaby half learned. And as you finally lower the lifeboat, as your hands meet oar and wood, You feel the ship release you, not with joy, not with grief, just acceptance, because you remembered, and now someone might remember you. You row slowly, softly. The sea welcomes you like it once did, but it feels different now, less vast, less lonely. Behind you, the merry Celeste grows smaller, until she isn't there at all, only mist. And silence, but not empty silence, the kind